a clown's nose, a worn-out script, an empty theater, 3 ordinary objects. Yet together, they tell one of the saddest stories Hollywood has ever known. How can a man spend his entire life making millions of people laugh, while quietly carrying a pain almost nobody could see? The world knew Robin Williams as the funniest man alive, the unstoppable comedian, the brilliant actor, the voice that could make children dream, and adults believe in magic again. Every time he appeared on screen, he brought joy, energy, life, but behind every unforgettable performance, there was another story unfolding, one that cameras rarely captured, one that even many of the people closest to him didn't fully understand. Because Robin Williams wasn't simply hiding sadness, he was fighting battles that had no audience, battles that became more frightening with every passing year. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part of all is that the world only understood what he had truly been facing after he was gone. Stay with us until the very end, because the real story of Robin Williams isn't about how he died. It's about how he chose to live, and why millions of people still miss someone they never actually knew. Long before Hollywood, long before the Academy Award, long before anyone called him a genius, Robin was simply an only child searching for connection. He grew up in a comfortable home. His father was a successful executive. His mother came from a wealthy family. From the outside, everything looked perfect, but appearances can be misleading. Robin often found himself alone. His parents loved him, but work frequently kept them busy. The large house that surrounded him offered comfort, yet it couldn't replace companionship. So Robin invented his own world. He spoke to imaginary characters. He gave different voices to his toys. He created entire conversations between objects that couldn't speak. What began as loneliness slowly became imagination. And imagination became survival without realizing it. The shy little boy was training the extraordinary talent that would one day captivate the world. At school, Robin discovered something fascinating. Whenever he made people laugh, everything changed. The awkward silence disappeared. People looked at him, they smiled, they wanted him around. Laughter became more than entertainment. It became acceptance. It became belonging. It became love. But there was a hidden danger. When people love the character, they sometimes stop asking how the person is feeling. Robin learned very early that making others happy could also become a way of hiding his own emotions. And that lesson would follow him for the rest of his life. Years later, millions would know his voice. Millions would recognize his face. But very few would ever meet the quiet little boy who first discovered that laughter could heal, even if only for a moment. What nobody could have imagined was how far that gift would eventually take him, or what it would cost. There are moments in life when talent is simply impossible to ignore. For Robin Williams, that moment arrived on a television set. Producers expected a funny actor. What they found was something they had never seen before. Robin didn't just perform, he exploded. Ideas seemed to arrive faster than anyone could process them. One character became 5 voices became 20. A simple conversation became an unforgettable performance. Improvisation wasn't something he practiced. It was how his mind naturally worked. People watching him often described the experience the same way. It felt like trying to keep up with a hurricane. No script could contain him. No director could predict him. Even fellow actors sometimes stopped performing, simply to watch what Robin would do next. Hollywood fell in love almost instantly. The sitcom Mork and Mindy turned him into a household name. Almost overnight, America had found a new kind of comedian. Completely unpredictable, completely fearless, completely original. Offers poured in. Stand-up shows sold out. Movie studios competed to work with him. Success arrived with breathtaking speed. From the outside, it looked like the beginning of a perfect life. But success often hides a dangerous illusion. The more the audience laughed, the more they expected Robin to always be funny. Every interview, every backstage conversation, every public appearance, people wanted Robin Williams, not Robin, and without realizing it, he slowly began carrying an invisible responsibility to make everyone else feel better, even on the days when he wasn't sure how to make himself feel better. Yet if there was one place where Robin felt completely free, it wasn't on a talk show, it was inside a movie set, because there, he could disappear into someone else's life, and perhaps escape his own. But one role in particular would change not only his career, it would change millions of lives. Most actors play characters. Robin Williams became them. He wasn't pretending. He disappeared completely. One year he was an alien making America laugh. The next, he was a teacher reminding students to seize the day. Then a doctor who believed laughter itself could heal. Then a father willing to become someone else, just to stay close to his children. Every performance felt deeply personal, because Robin never searched for perfect characters. He searched for real people, people who were lonely, broken, hopeful, lost, dreamers, children, fathers, outcasts. Somehow, every audience saw a little of themselves in him. When Dead Poets Society reached theaters, teachers cried, students changed their lives. The phrase, Carpe Diem, became more than a line in a movie. It became a philosophy. Then came Mrs. Doubtfire. Families laughed together. Parents saw themselves. Children adored him. Robin had an extraordinary gift. He could make you laugh, and then, without warning, make you cry, not because he manipulated emotion, because he understood it. Few people realized that Robin's greatest talent wasn't comedy. It was empathy. He knew exactly what people needed to hear, exactly what they needed to feel, exactly how to remind them they weren't alone. Perhaps because he knew what loneliness felt like himself. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Robin Williams had become one of the most beloved people on Earth. Awards followed. Critical acclaim followed. Finally, an Academy Award, the dream every actor imagines. The world saw a man who had achieved everything, but there was something the cameras never showed. After the applause faded, after the lights turned off, Robin often returned home carrying a silence, far heavier than anyone imagined. And soon, that silence would begin to grow. Fame changes many people. For Robin Williams, it simply gave him more opportunities to help. There were no cameras, no press releases, no carefully planned publicity. Most of what Robin did became public only because other people decided to tell the stories years later. Hospital staff remembered him walking quietly through children's wards without warning. One moment, a child was facing another frightening day of treatment. The next, Robin Williams was sitting beside the bed, speaking in funny voices, creating imaginary characters, making parents laugh when they hadn't smiled in weeks. For a few precious minutes, the hospital disappeared, the fear disappeared, the illness disappeared, only laughter remained. Robin understood something that many people never do. Sometimes, the greatest gift isn't money, it's making someone forget their pain, even if only for a moment. He visited children's hospitals, military bases, charity events, cancer centers, not because someone asked him to, because he believed joy itself could heal. During years of conflict overseas, he traveled thousands of miles to perform for American service members stationed far from home. The stages were simple, the audiences exhausted, yet Robin gave every performance with the same energy he would have given at the biggest theater in Hollywood. Because to him, every audience deserved everything he had. Friends often described another habit. Robin noticed the people nobody else noticed. The camera operator, the lighting technician, the driver, the waitress, the security guard. He remembered names. He started conversations. He made people feel seen, perhaps because he knew exactly what it felt like to feel invisible. But while Robin spent so much of his life lifting others, very few people realized how much strength it was costing him. Most people imagine depression as constant sadness. Reality is rarely that simple, especially for someone like Robin Williams. He could walk onto a stage and become the funniest person in the room. Minutes later, he could find himself sitting alone in complete silence. For years, Robin openly spoke about his struggles with addiction. He fought hard to rebuild his life, and for a long time, it seemed as though he had won that battle. He returned to work. He rebuilt relationships. He continued creating unforgettable performances. The world believed everything was finally getting better. But there were signs, small ones, almost invisible. Friends noticed moments of confusion, unexpected anxiety, difficulty sleeping, a level of exhaustion that seemed impossible to explain. Robin himself began speaking about a strange feeling. Something wasn't right. He couldn't understand it. Neither could the doctors. Imagine one of the quickest minds in entertainment, beginning to distrust his own thoughts. Imagine waking up every morning, feeling that something inside your brain is changing, without knowing why. That uncertainty became terrifying. Robin wasn't afraid of hard work. He wasn't afraid of audiences. He wasn't afraid of failure. He was afraid of losing himself. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part was that nobody yet knew what was actually happening. Not even Robin, but the answer was already there, hidden inside his own brain, waiting to be discovered. Sometimes, the most important answers arrive too late. In the final months of Robin Williams' life, something inside him was changing. Not emotionally, physically, his memory began betraying him. Simple tasks became confusing. His sleep grew increasingly restless. Anxiety appeared without warning. His body no longer felt familiar. The man whose mind had once moved faster than almost anyone else's now struggled to understand what was happening inside his own. Doctors searched for explanations. Different diagnoses were considered. Different treatments were attempted. Nothing seemed to fit. Robin himself knew something was terribly wrong, but he couldn't give it a name. Imagine waking up every morning, feeling like you're slowly losing control of your own mind, while the entire world still expects you to be Robin Williams, still expects the smile, still expects the energy, still expects the magic. That invisible conflict became unbearable. Only after his death did his family finally receive the answer they had desperately been searching for. Robin Williams had been living with Lewy body disease, one of the most aggressive and misunderstood neurodegenerative disorders, a disease that attacks the brain itself, a disease capable of causing severe anxiety, confusion, sleep disorders, hallucinations, depression, and an overwhelming feeling that reality itself is slipping away. Experts later described his brain as one of the most severe cases they had ever examined. Suddenly, everything made sense. The fear, the confusion, the exhaustion, the invisible battle. Robin hadn't simply been fighting sadness. He had been fighting an illness that very few people, even specialists, fully understood at the time. And perhaps the greatest tragedy is that he never lived long enough to know what was truly happening to him. After Robin's passing, the world mourned an actor, but something unexpected happened. Thousands of stories began to emerge, not from celebrities, not from Hollywood executives, from ordinary people. A nurse remembered how Robin stayed far longer than anyone expected with a sick child. A soldier recalled how one evening of laughter carried him through months of loneliness overseas. Crew members remembered the way he treated every person on set with the same kindness. Whether they were the director or the newest assistant, restaurant workers shared stories of quiet generosity. Hotel employees remembered heartfelt conversations. Young comedians spoke about encouragement they never forgot. The internet became filled with memories, not of Robin Williams the movie star, but Robin Williams the human being, a man who understood that every person carries a story, and that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can become the most unforgettable. His philanthropy was never designed to build a public image. It grew naturally from empathy, from the simple belief that making one person's day a little brighter was already a meaningful success. Perhaps that's why millions of people still feel connected to him today, not because he was perfect, but because he made compassion feel effortless. And in a world increasingly obsessed with success, Robin quietly reminded us that kindness is its own kind of greatness. But one question still remains. What was the true meaning behind that smile? At the beginning of this story, we showed you three simple objects: a clown's nose, an old script, an empty theater. Now, they mean something entirely different. The clown's nose wasn't a disguise. It was a gift, a promise that, for a few moments, someone else's pain could disappear. The script wasn't just another movie. It was another opportunity to make people feel seen, to make them believe, to make them hope. And the empty theater reminds us that eventually, every performance ends, every audience goes home, every spotlight fades, but kindness remains. Robin Williams spent his life giving the world something priceless, not because his own life was free from suffering, but because he understood suffering better than most. He knew that laughter could heal, that empathy could change a day, that compassion could save someone, without anyone ever realizing it. Perhaps that's why people still miss him, not simply because he made us laugh, but because he made us feel understood. Robin Williams won awards. He starred in unforgettable films. He became one of the most beloved entertainers in history. But perhaps none of those achievements define his greatest legacy. His greatest legacy lives inside the people he comforted. The children whose hospital rooms suddenly filled with laughter. The strangers who felt seen. The friends he quietly encouraged. The millions of people who found hope in characters that taught them to dream. At the beginning of this story, we asked how someone who made the world laugh could carry so much pain. Perhaps the answer is this: Robin Williams understood that joy becomes even more meaningful when you know what suffering feels like. And maybe that's why his kindness never felt like an act. It felt genuine. It came from someone who knew that every smile matters, even the smallest one. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which Robin Williams performance touched your heart the most? And why? Was it the laughter, or was it the humanity behind it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden side of extraordinary people, subscribe to See Beyond the Spotlight. Every week we reveal the untold stories, hidden sacrifices, and remarkable acts of humanity that exist beyond fame, beyond success, and beyond the spotlight.